Orange Station floated in the silent depths of space, a massive ring-shaped structure covered with bright lights and glimmering panels. It was the largest meeting place in the galaxy. Home to the Grand Accord Summit, the station was built so that leaders of every advanced race could gather in one place to talk, trade, and settle problems without war. Inside the Great Chamber, the air was filled with a strange mix of scents from many worlds. The walls were high and curved, covered in banners of every known empire. In the center stood a long table shaped like an oval, wide enough for 50 people to sit around. Each seat belonged to one race, marked with its crest. Many eyes turned toward the seat marked with a blue and white emblem, the symbol of humanity. It was the first time humans had been given a place at this table. Many races had doubted they would ever earn it. Humanity had entered space travel much later than others, but their speed of progress had been faster than expected, and only to centuries. Humans had moved from small colonies to owning trade routes. Across 3 sectors, the human representative, Daniel, sat quietly in his chair. He was a tall man with dark hair and calm eyes. He wore a simple black suit with a silver badge of Earth on his chest. He did not speak much during the early part of the meeting, instead listening to the constant flow of voices from the other delegates. Around him sat beings of many shapes, tall and thin aliens with crystal skin, short and strong ones with armor like hides, and others whose eyes glowed softly in the dim light. The council meeting began with the elder speaker of the Grand Accord, a long-lived alien named Vorkal. His voice echoed around the chamber as he welcomed the new human delegation. There were polite words, but Daniel noticed the small hints in the tone, as if the welcome was more of a formality than a genuine invitation. After the welcome, the discussion started. One by one, delegates brought up disputes over borders, shipping, rights, and mining claims. Voices rose, some in frustration, others in warning. The chamber felt like a storm of words and emotions, yet the humans stayed quiet, watching and learning. Daniel kept his hands folded on the table and his face calm. Inside, he was studying every word, every reaction. A representative from the Voltron Empire slammed his hand on the table. If the Karth Dominion refuses to pay for the damage to our stations, we will take payment by force, he declared. His heavy voice rumbled across the room. The Karth delegate leaned forward, his scaled face tight with anger. Your claim is false. The damage was caused by your own mistakes, not by us. The argument grew louder, and Vorkal had to raise his voice to restore order. The room fell quiet again, but the tension was clear. It was in moments like this that Daniel saw the true state of the galaxy. The Grand Accord was supposed to be a place of peace, but it was also a place where power was measured and tested. During a short break, a few delegates approached Daniel. They spoke politely, but their questions were sharp. How quickly can your colonies produce ships? One asked, why do humans keep building deep space research stations so far from your main worlds? Asked another. Daniel answered with short, careful replies. He did not share more than needed. The truth was, humanity's colonies had grown strong and independent. Some were self-sufficient in resources. Others were hidden in places no other race could easily find. Humanity had always believed in preparing for the worst, and this belief had shaped their rise among the stars. The meeting resumed after the break. New topics came up: problems with trade routes, piracy in border sectors, and talks about forming a united military patrol. Daniel noticed how certain empires pushed for decisions that gave them more control over smaller powers. It was an old pattern. Humanity had seen it on Earth long before they reached the stars. The names were different now, but the game was the same. Then, a subtle shift happened. One delegate suggested that new members of the Accord should follow certain security guidelines. At first, it sounded harmless, but as more details came out, Daniel understood the real meaning. These guidelines would allow larger empires to protect human colonies in exchange for oversight and resource sharing. In other words, they wanted to limit humanity's growth. Vorkal looked toward Daniel. We will discuss this proposal further in the next session, he said. We trust the humans will consider the wisdom of unity and the dangers of isolation. Daniel gave a polite nod but said nothing and sighed. His mind was already working. The words unity and isolation sounded like an invitation, but they were chains in disguise. If humanity agreed to these terms, they would lose control over their own future. When the meeting ended for the day, Daniel returned to the human quarters on Orange Station. His fellow envoys, Maria and Thomas, were waiting. They had been watching the sessions from the observation hall. They are going to try to push it through, Maria said as soon as the door closed. If they succeed, we will be under their control in a year. Thomas leaned against the wall, arms crossed. It's not just about control. They think we are too dangerous to grow any further. Daniel removed his badge and placed it on the table. Then we need to decide now. Do we stay and play their game, or do we walk away? The room was silent for a moment. Each of them understood the weight of the choice. Staying meant giving in to the council's rules and losing independence. Walking away meant losing influence, allies, and access to shared resources. But humanity had never been the kind to bow when threatened. Daniel finally spoke again. We came here to build trust. We offered them a seat beside us, and they offered chains. If they push this proposal, we will not stay. Maria looked at him with concern. You know what that means. Every race here will see us as a threat. They already do, Daniel replied. The only difference is now they will know we are ready to act far outside the station. Stars shone cold and bright. Humanity's fleets were scattered across known space, their positions hidden, their strength unknown to most. For now, they remained still, like shadows in the dark. But if the council forced their hand, those shadows would move. Daniel stepped to the window and looked out at the curve of Orange Station. He could see the docking bays, filled with ships of every shape and size. Somewhere among them was a human cruiser that had brought them here. Its engines were ready, its crew waiting for orders. The first day at the Grand Accord table had ended, but Daniel knew it was only the beginning. The real test would come when humanity made its choice, and the galaxy saw what they were truly willing to do. The second day of the Grand Accord Summit began with the same ceremony as the first. The massive chamber of Orange Station filled with the voices of translators and the low hum of distant machinery. Delegates from every corner of the galaxy took their seats around the great oval table. The banners of 100 worlds hung from the walls, swaying slightly in the station's controlled air. Daniel entered with the other human envoys, Maria and Thomas, walking beside him. His expression was calm, but his mind was already sharp and alert. He knew the main topic today would be the so-called security guidelines. Every word and every gesture would matter. Vorkal, the elder speaker, began with formal greetings. His tall, thin figure stood at the head of the chamber, his silver skin reflecting the soft lights. We will now address the matter of the security accord for new members, he announced. His voice was steady, but there was a weight to it. Everyone understood that this was not just a suggestion. It was a plan to be voted on. A representative from the Voltron Empire rose first. His deep voice carried across the room. In the interest of stability, we propose that any new member of the Grand Accord allow regular inspections of their colonies and fleets. This will ensure that no power grows unchecked and that peace remains secure. The Karth Dominions. Delegate followed. His scaled hands rested on the table as his eyes scanned the humans. Furthermore, certain colonies near sensitive borders should be placed under joint administration. This will prevent misunderstandings and protect trade. Maria's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Thomas scribbled quiet notes on his datapad. Daniel sat still, his gaze focused on the speaker. He wanted to hear every detail before responding. One by one, other delegates voiced their support. A few smaller nations hesitated, clearly uneasy about the idea of giving up control. But they were outnumbered by the larger empires. The pattern was obvious. This was not about protection. It was about control. Finally, Vorkal turned to the human seat. Representative Daniel, the council welcomes your thoughts on this matter. Daniel took a breath before standing. His voice was even, measured. The human delegation has listened to the proposal carefully. We understand the stated goal is peace. However, The guidelines described here would place our colonies under oversight. That we did not agree to when joining this table. Inspections, without cause and joint control of worlds are not measures of trust. They are measures of restraint. A quiet murmur spread across the chamber. The Voltron delegate leaned forward, his voice heavy with false patience. Restraint is necessary when growth is rapid and unpredictable. Humanity's expansion has been faster than any in recent memory. We must ensure balance. Daniel met his eyes. Balance should not mean that one grows only as much as others allow. If we limit ourselves in fear of our neighbors, then we surrender the very purpose of progress. The Karth delegate's voice was sharp, and if you refuse these terms, the Accord's strength comes from unity. Those who reject unity risk isolation. Daniel did not answer immediately. He knew silence could be as powerful as words. After a moment, he said simply, "We will consider our position and respond tomorrow." Vorkal nodded, though his expression showed no warmth. "Very well. The council will expect your answer." The rest of the day's discussions moved to other matters, but the air in the chamber was heavier than before. Delegates glanced at the human seat with quiet calculation. Daniel could see the unspoken question in their eyes. Would humanity bow to the will of the Accord, or would they break from it entirely? When the session ended, Daniel, Maria, and Thomas returned to their private quarters. As soon as the door sealed shut, Maria spoke. "They are united against us. If we accept this, we give away our freedom. If we refuse, we stand alone." Thomas tapped his data pad, showing a map of human colonies. "They are already positioning fleets near some of our trade lanes. If they believe we will walk away, they may try to pressure us before we leave." Daniel studied the map. "Pressure only works if we depend on them. Our colonies have been preparing for this possibility for years. Many are self-sufficient now. Some are hidden from any public star charts." Maria leaned forward. "Then we have a choice to make tonight." Daniel nodded, "and it must be clear. If we decide to leave the Accord, we cannot return later without losing all respect. Our decision will define how the galaxy sees us." The three of them debated through the evening. They weighed the risks of isolation against the danger of losing independence. They reviewed the readiness of the fleets, the security of the colonies, and the strength of their alliances outside the Accord. Every fact pointed to the same truth. Humanity could survive without the Council's protection, but only if they were ready to stand against the anger that would follow by night cycle. The decision was made. The next morning, Daniel stood before the window of their quarters, looking out at the vast curve of Orcs Station. Ships came and went from the docking bays, moving like insects around a massive hive. Somewhere out there was the human cruiser Resolute, waiting for orders. Its crew did not yet know that their mission had changed. Maria joined him at the window. "Are you certain?" she asked quietly. "Yes," Daniel replied. "We came here to speak as equals. If they refuse to treat us as such, then we will not stay." Thomas entered the room, carrying a sealed message packet. "I've prepared the statement for the Council. Once we deliver it, there is no turning back." Daniel took the packet in his hand. It felt heavier than its size. It was more than paper. In words, it was the weight of humanity's choice. The three envoys walked together toward the council chamber. The halls of Orcs Station seemed quieter today, as if the station itself sensed what was about to happen. Delegates and aides glanced at them as they passed, some curious, some wary. By the time they reached the chamber doors, Daniel's mind was steady. The choice had been made, and there was no fear in him now. Inside, the great table waited. Delegates filled their seats, their conversations stopping as the humans entered. Vorkal looked toward Daniel. "Representative Daniel, have you reached a decision?" Daniel placed the sealed packet on the table. "We have. You will have our full statement shortly. But know this, humanity will not accept any measure that limits our right to govern our own worlds." There was a pause, a stillness that spread through the room. The sound of distant machinery was the only noise. Some delegates frowned. Others exchanged silent glances. The meaning was clear. Even without the final words of the statement, the galaxy had asked humanity to accept chains. Humanity was preparing to walk away. The council chamber of Orange Station was quiet after the human statement. No one spoke for several moments. Vorkal's silver eyes studied Daniel, but his expression did not change. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm. The council will consider your position. The matter will be discussed tomorrow. Daniel gave a respectful nod, then stepped back. The human envoys left the chamber without another word. Their footsteps echoed through the long hall, drawing glances from aides and guards. It was clear to everyone that the humans were not bending to the will of the larger empires. When the doors closed behind them, Maria exhaled slowly. That silence told me more than any speech could. They know what this means. Thomas nodded. Yes. Now they will start moving against us, quietly at first. They returned to the human quarters and sealed the doors. The quiet hum of the station systems filled the room. Daniel activated a secure console in the corner. A small holo display lit up, showing the rotating image of Earth's emblem. He entered a long encryption code before speaking. This is Envoy Channel 7 to command. Daniel said, Authorization Delta Prime. Begin Protocol Red Horizon. A clear voice responded from the other end. Confirmed, Envoy. Protocol. Red Horizon is now active. The words were simple, but the meaning was deep. Red Horizon was a plan created years ago, in case humanity ever had to leave the Grand Accord under hostile conditions. It was not a plan for war, but for complete independence. It meant rerouting trade, moving fleets to hidden stations, and shifting colony communications to secure channels that no outside power could monitor. Maria sat beside the console, adding her own report. Political pressures building here. We expect attempts to restrict our docking rights within the week. Recommend pre-positioning supply fleets outside Accord-controlled zones. Thomas added his input. Request immediate updates on deep space. Colony security. All stations should be ready for silent mode. On the other end of the secure line, a comm officer's voice confirmed every order. Soon, human ships across known space would begin moving in ways that appeared normal to outsiders. But each step was part of a larger pattern. Daniel ended the transmission. The Council thinks we are just deciding whether to accept their terms. They have no idea we already made our choice. Maria leaned back. That is good. The more time we have before they realize, the stronger our position will be. Hours later, as the station entered its ninth cycle, the human envoys walked the quieter halls of Orange Station. They passed alien crews speaking in low voices, traders, moving cargo between ships, and guards watching from the shadows, from the outside. Nothing seemed unusual, but Daniel's trained eye caught small signs, extra patrols from certain empires, unfamiliar faces near human docking bays, and quiet conversations that stopped when they walked past. The galaxy's powers were already reacting. That night, Daniel could not sleep. He stood by the window of his quarters, looking out at the dark curve of space. Beyond the glowing frame of Orange Station, countless stars stretched into the black. Somewhere among them were human colonies, each one a piece of the growing network that the larger empires feared. Humanity had reached a point where they could chart their own destiny, and that was the true threat to the old powers. In another part of the station, hidden from the public areas, a group of allied merchants met with Thomas. They were not human, but they had done business with Earth for years. One, a tall creature with copper-colored skin named Dareth, spoke in a quiet tone. I hear the Council is moving to restrict your trade lanes. If that happens, my people will still sell to you, but we must do it outside official routes. Thomas nodded. We expected this. Keep our arrangements quiet, and we will pay well for the risk. Another merchant, small and quick-moving, added. I also hear rumors of patrol fleets moving toward your colonies. You should know this before it is announced. Thomas thanked them. Deals like these were as important as any fleet movement. In space, information was often more valuable than weapons. Back in the human quarters, Maria was sending coded instructions to several far colonies. Each message was disguised as standard cargo reports, but inside the data were new coordinates, security protocols, and supply requests. If anyone intercepted them, they would see nothing unusual, Only human intelligence officers knew the real meaning. By the next day, the tension in the council chamber was thicker than before. Delegates spoke on routine matters, but their eyes often drifted toward the human seat. Some were curious, others hostile. Vorkal watched with the same calm as always, but Daniel noticed the small shift in his voice when he called on the next speaker. He was testing the room, measuring who would openly support the proposal against humanity and who would remain silent. When the meeting ended, Daniel stayed behind for a moment, pretending to review documents. A pair of delegates approached him. Quietly, they represented smaller nations with little military power. One spoke in a low voice. "We do not agree with this proposal. If you leave the accord, we may wish to speak privately about trade." Daniel gave a small nod. "We will remember that." These small exchanges, though brief, added to the growing web of quiet moves. Humanity might be facing the combined will of the large empires, but there were always those who preferred a balance of power rather than total control. As the envoys walked back through the station's wide corridors, Maria asked, "How long do you think before they realize we are already pulling back?" Daniel considered the question. "Not long, but by the time they do, it will be too late to stop us." That evening, the Resolute sent a simple message to the human quarters: "Fleet movements confirmed. All stations ready." The words appeared on the screen for only a second before the encryption cleared them. Daniel closed the console and looked at his team. "It begins outside Orange Station." The galaxy still looked calm. Ships came and went. Trade continued, and the banners of the Grand Accord still hung proudly in the chamber. But beneath the surface, the first quiet moves of humanity's withdrawal had already begun, and the rest of the galaxy was still pretending nothing had changed. They would soon learn that shadows could be more dangerous than any open threat. The morning of the final session arrived quietly. Orange Station's lights glowed in soft gold, casting long shadows across its metal hulls. Outside, ships from every known power floated in the docking rings, their hulls shining in the pale light of a nearby star. The Resolute waited among them, engines warm, crews standing ready for orders. They had only guessed at in the council chamber. The seats were full. Delegates from every empire, alliance, and neutral world had gathered. Even those who rarely attended had made the trip, knowing the day's discussion could change the balance of the galaxy. The air was heavy with expectation. The Grand Accord's elder speaker, Vorkal, stood at the head of the table. His silver skin caught the light as he raised his hands for silence. "We will now return to the matter of the Security Accord for new members," he said. "Representative Daniel, the council awaits your answer." Daniel rose slowly from the human seat. His black suit was neat, his silver badge polished. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each delegate. Some looked back with challenge, others with curiosity. Many avoided his gaze, honored. "Members of the council," Daniel began, his voice steady. "Humanity came to this table in good faith. We believed in open discussion, in respect between equal partners. We listened to your words, and we considered your proposal carefully." He paused for only a moment before continuing. "But your proposal is not a gesture of trust. It is a demand for control. To accept it would be to give away the right to shape our own future. Therefore, the human delegation rejects these terms, fully and without condition." A low ripple of sound moved through the room. Some whispered to each other, some frowned, and a few sat in complete stillness. Daniel's voice did not rise or harden. He spoke with the same calm he had from the start. "As of this moment, humanity withdraws from the Grand Accord. We will honor existing trade agreements for the time being, but we will not be bound by the Council's oversight. We will manage our own colonies, our own fleets, and our own path." The silence that followed was unlike any in the chamber before. Even the hum of the station's systems seemed distant. Vorkal regarded Daniel for a long moment, his expression unreadable. "You understand," he said at last, "that walking away means the loss of the Accord's protection." Daniel met his gaze. "We understand, and we accept the consequences." Vorkal inclined his head slightly. "Then your seat at this table will be marked as vacant. May your people find the path they seek." Daniel gave a respectful bow, then turned. Maria and Thomas rose with him, their faces calm. The three of them walked from the chamber in complete silence. No one tried to stop them. Though many eyes followed their every step, outside the chamber, the sound of their footsteps echoed against the metal floor. The wide corridors seemed longer than before, lined with banners of worlds they would no longer share a table with. Passing aides and guards glanced at them, some with curiosity, others with thinly veiled hostility. In the docking bay, the Resolute waited. Its crew stood ready, the captain saluting as the envoys approached. "Orders, sir?" the captain asked. "Set course for the designated coordinates," Daniel replied. "Secure channels only. Departure in 10 minutes." The envoys boarded the ship, and the docking clamps released with a heavy metallic sound. Engines roared to life, sending a deep vibration through the hull. Slowly, the Resolute pulled away from Orange Station. From the viewports, the great ring of the station shrank against the black of space. Maria stood beside Daniel, watching in silence. "It feels strange," she said quietly. "We came here hoping to build something, and now we leave with nothing." Daniel shook his head. "Not nothing. We leave with our freedom. That is worth more than any seat at their table." Thomas joined them, glancing at the star maps on his handheld device. "Our fleet movements are already in place. By the time they send scouts to monitor us, we will be out of their reach." From the bridge, the captain's voice called out, "Engaging jump drive in 30 seconds." Daniel took one last look at Orange Station through the viewport. The banners, the docking rings, the endless traffic of ships. It was a symbol of unity for the galaxy, but also of the control that unity demanded. Humanity had chosen a harder road, but it was their own. The Resolute's jump drive activated, and the stars outside stretched into long streaks of light. The ship leapt into faster-than-light travel, leaving the station and the council far behind. On Orange Station, the news spread quickly. Word traveled through the halls that humanity had walked away without threats or bargaining, without anger, and without regret. Delegates argued inside chambers. Some demanded sanctions, others warned against, provoking a race that had just proven it would not bend. In quiet corners, traders and diplomats whispered that perhaps the humans had been preparing for this all along. Back aboard the Resolute, the envoys met with the captain in the conference room. A holographic map of human space floated above the table, dotted with colonies, fleets, and outposts. "Our priority is to secure every border," Daniel said. "No unnecessary contact with Accord forces if they approach our colonies. We respond on our terms, not theirs." Maria pointed to several red-marked zones on the map. "These are the areas where we expect them to test us first. Patrols are already moving there." Thomas added, "Trade will slow at first, but we have enough reserves to maintain independence. Our outer colonies are producing more than enough to supply the core worlds." Daniel looked at each of them. "We are not seeking war, but if they push us, we will be ready." The captain nodded firmly. "The fleet is with you, sir." Later, Daniel stood alone in the observation deck, watching the blur of lights outside. He thought of the moment in the council chamber, of the silence that had followed his words. It was not just the end of an agreement, it was the start of something new. Humanity had stepped out of the shadow of the galaxy's oldest powers. From this point on, every decision would be theirs alone, somewhere far ahead. Beyond the reach of Orange Station and the Grand Accord, the future waited. It was uncertain, uncharted, and dangerous. But it belonged to humanity, and Daniel knew that. Was enough. When the Resolute vanished into faster-than-light space, Orange Station seemed quieter. Yet within hours, the echo of humanity's departure spread far beyond its halls. Messages carried the news to every capital, trade hub, and fleet command. Humanity had left the Grand Accord without hesitation, without seeking compromise. The boldness of it was what unsettled the galaxy most. In the Voltron capital, the High Council met in urgent session. Their chamber was smaller than Orin's, but filled with tension. They walked away without fear. One counselor said, "This means they have strength we cannot see." Another counselor disagreed. "Perhaps they are foolish. Without the Accord, they have no protection." The High Chancellor ended the argument with a sharp wave of his hand. Foolish or not, they will not be ignored. Begin monitoring their fleets. Find out what they are hiding. Far away in the Karth Dominion, skilled officers studied maps of human space. Red markers blinked where trade routes once connected their territories to Earth and its colonies. A senior commander tapped the screen. If we close these lanes, they will lose access to supplies. An intelligence officer replied. If they are as self-sufficient as the reports claim, closing lanes will change little. And if we provoke them, they may respond in ways we are not ready for. The commander frowned. Then we watch, but we also prepare. Across the galaxy, similar conversations took place. The smaller nations spoke in private, some worrying that the great powers would punish them if they dealt with humanity. Others considering secret agreements in dark corners of trade ports. Merchants whispered that the humans had planned this for years, that their colonies had hidden shipyards and weapons the Accord had never inspected. In space, the first signs of change appeared. A patrol from the Voltron Empire approached the border of a human colony in the outer sectors. Without crossing into its space, the patrol lingered, scanning the area. Minutes later, 3 human ships emerged from behind a nearby moon. Their weapons were not active, but their presence was unmistakable. The patrol withdrew without a word. On the colony itself, life continued as if nothing had happened. Farmers worked the hydroponic fields, engineers maintained the power grids, and children learned in classrooms. Yet behind the calm surface, the colony's defense systems had gone into full readiness. Every weapon was powered, every shield tested. No one announced it publicly, but the people knew. In another sector, a small pirate fleet attempted to raid. A cargo convoy believed to be carrying rare metals from a human mining station. The pirates never returned. Weeks later, rumors spread among traders of wreckage found drifting in empty space. Wreckage marked with the insignia of the pirate fleet. No one could confirm how it happened, but everyone had a guess. Back on Earth, the United Human Command met in secure session. Fleet Admiral Ruiz stood before a map of the galaxy. Red zones marked the territories of the largest empires, yellow zones marked neutral space, and blue lines traced humanity's own reach. The Accord's powers are watching us closely. The Admiral said, they are testing our reactions, measuring our movements. So far, they are cautious. That caution means they are unsure. One of the civilian leaders asked, do you believe they will attack? Ruiz shook his head. Not yet. They do not know the true size of our fleets or the locations of our forward bases. As long as that remains unknown, they will hesitate. The Council agreed to continue strengthening the outer colonies and building alliances quietly. Every decision was made with the understanding that the galaxy's eyes were on them. On Orin Station, Vorkal received daily reports from intelligence officers. He read them carefully, noting each strange movement, a convoy vanishing from known routes, colonies going silent on public channels, trade shifting to hidden ports. He understood the danger. The Accord's structure relied on predictability, and humanity was removing itself from that structure entirely. In the following weeks, traders began noticing something unsettling. Human ships were seen less often on regular trade lanes, but sightings in deep, uncharted regions increased. Sometimes they traveled in groups of 3 or 4, sometimes alone, but always far from the routes other powers used. The sightings were brief, as if the humans did not want to be tracked. For ordinary citizens of the Accord's worlds, the story of humanity's withdrawal became a subject of constant discussion. Some admired the decision, seeing it as a stand for independence. Others feared it, believing it to be the first step toward a dangerous conflict. News broadcasts showed images of the empty human seat at the Grand Accord table, a silent reminder of the change. One such broadcast played in a quiet cafe on a neutral world. A group of young officers from different races sat together, watching. One of them, a soft-voiced pilot from the Solar Confederacy, said, I heard they have ships that can travel beyond the mapped edge of the galaxy. Another officer, older and skeptical, replied, that is only rumor. The pilot shook his head. Rumors do not make entire empires nervous. Meanwhile, and a hidden human base built into the side of an asteroid. Technicians worked tirelessly. Cargo ships arrived with supplies from outer colonies, and engineers tested new long-range communication arrays. These were not ordinary systems. They used frequencies and encryption methods that no Accord technology could intercept. The base's location was not on any official star chart. It was one of several such places humanity had quietly developed over decades. At the same time, deep in the black between stars, the Resolute rendezvoused with a small human task force. The ships exchanged no public transmissions, only secure bursts of data. Daniel stood on the bridge, watching the other vessels align with the Resolute. Each ship was sleek, fast, and armed with weapons that had never been shown at the Accord. Maria joined him. "The galaxy is starting to realize we are not retreating," she said. "We are moving in a way they cannot predict." Daniel nodded. "That uncertainty is our shield. As long as they cannot see the whole picture, they will hesitate in every corner of the galaxy." The same question was being asked. What would humanity do next? No one could answer it, and that uncertainty was beginning to grow into something larger: fear. The galaxy watched and waited. Humanity had left the Grand Accord without threat or anger, but their absence was louder than any battle cry. The unknown power they hid was the new source of fear. For the great empires, on a remote world in the Karth Dominion, a small fleet commander stared at his screen. Reports had come in overnight. A group of human ships had destroyed a pirate fleet near a mining station. There was no official announcement, no message sent. The pirate ships simply ceased to exist. The silence of their destruction spoke louder than any declaration of war. Commander Haxus rubbed his scaled chin. "No one claims responsibility. This is new, dangerous." In the same moment, on a distant trading hub, merchants exchanged hushed words. The humans no longer used the usual routes or signals. They appeared where no one expected and vanished before anyone could respond. The fear was growing, not from what humanity said, but from what they did not say. Back on Earth, Admiral Ruiz reviewed intelligence reports. "Our people are watching all fronts. The Accord fleets are nervous. They fear the unknown." A young officer asked, "Do you think they will try to attack us first?" Ruiz shook his head slowly. "They are unsure. Our silence and readiness keep them guessing. They do not want a fight they cannot control." Meanwhile, the Resolute sailed silently through a hidden warp lane. Daniel stood on the bridge, eyes scanning the stars. His calm exterior hid the steady focus inside. Humanity's strength was not in loud warships or flashy weapons, but in quiet preparation and unmatched strategy. Maria joined him. "We are ghosts now. They cannot track us fully." Daniel nodded. "That is our greatest advantage, in the dark. Power grows without challenge." Thomas arrived with a report. "The outer colonies are expanding defenses and building new stations. Supplies move quickly and quietly. The Accord does not know what we have prepared." The three envoys gathered around a holographic map. It showed human space with new markings, hidden bases, supply routes, and fleet positions invisible to outside eyes. "We must keep the secret," Daniel said. "If the galaxy knows, they will try to stop us." Suddenly, the comm was broken by a secure message from a forward scout. "Unidentified fleet near the trade corridor, moving fast." No response to hails. Maria's eyes narrowed. "Could be an Accord patrol testing us." Daniel replied, "Prepare defensive positions. We will not start a fight, but we will be ready." Across the galaxy, the news of pirate fleets destroyed without warning and missing human ships created rumors. Some said humanity had new weapons. Others spoke of secret alliances with unknown forces. The truth was simpler. Humanity acted with purpose, but without noise. In the Grand Accord chambers, tension grew. The empty human seat was a constant reminder of the change. Some leaders pushed for harsh measures, while others warned against provoking a race that had proven it would not bend. Vorkal, the elder speaker, spoke in a rare private meeting. "We must understand humanity not by their absence, but by their actions. They teach us that power may grow quietly, and that fear comes not only from battles, but from what is unseen. In the shadows of the galaxy, humanity continued to prepare. Scientists developed new technology, engineers built ships designed for stealth and speed, and commanders trained crews in tactics never seen before. The quiet strength was unlike anything the galaxy had known. On a distant human colony, a child looked up at the stars. "Will the others be angry that we left?" she asked her father. He smiled gently. "They might be, but we have chosen to stand for ourselves. That is how we grow strong." Her eyes brightened. "Will we come back to the table someday?" Her father looked to the stars. "Maybe, but only when we are ready." Back on the Resolute, Daniel looked out into the vast blackness. The galaxy had watched humanity walk away from the table, afraid and unsure what would come next. But Daniel knew the future was not in words or threats, but in quiet power growing beneath the stars. The journey was only beginning. The stars outside the Resolute stretched into long lines of light. As the ship moved faster than any standard fleet, Daniel stood on the observation deck, watching the distant points of light with calm eyes. It had been months since humanity left the Grand Accord, but the galaxy was still learning what that meant. The silence had grown louder. The other powers waited, watching for signs of weakness or attack. What they did not understand was that humanity's message had already been sent. Not in words, but in actions. Maria entered the room quietly, carrying a small data device. "We have confirmation from the outer colonies. Their defenses are holding steady, and new alliances are forming beyond the Accord's reach." Daniel nodded. "Good. It means our plan works." Thomas joined them, holding a secure communication link. "There's a message waiting for the Council. It will be sent soon." Daniel looked at the device. "Prepare it carefully. This message will change how the galaxy sees us." The three envoys gathered in the conference room. A holographic screen lit the space with images of Earth and human colonies spread across space. On the screen, a message appeared in many languages, clear and firm. "To the Grand Accord and all peoples of the galaxy, humanity has chosen its own path. We respect the right of all races to grow and govern themselves without outside control. We offer no threat, but we claim our freedom. We will build alliances based on trust and fairness, not on domination. This is our message beyond the stars. We are here, we are strong, and we will not be controlled." Daniel's voice was calm as he recorded the final version. "This is more than a statement. It is a promise. We do not seek war, but we will defend our future." Maria activated the communication channel. The message sent instantly through deep space relays, reaching every member of the Grand Accord. And beyond, it was a message that could not be ignored. Across the galaxy, the message stirred reactions. Some leaders responded with cold silence, unwilling to accept humanity's bold claim. Others sent back cautious offers of dialogue, unsure how to face a power that refused to play by old rules. On Orin Station, Vorkal received the message. He read it slowly, understanding its meaning. "Humanity has not just walked away from the table," he said. "They have stepped into the future." In distant worlds, citizens watched the news broadcasts. The empty human seat at the Grand Accord was now a symbol of change, a symbol that power was not only about words and treaties, but about the will to shape one's own destiny. Back on the Resolute, the crew prepared for the next phase of humanity's journey. Ships gathered quietly, hidden bases grew stronger, and new technologies promised to keep humanity secure and independent. Daniel looked out once more into the endless dark. "We sent the message. Now we must live it." Maria smiled softly. "The galaxy may fear us, but they will also respect us." Thomas nodded. "Because we stand not as conquerors, but as free people." The Resolute turned toward a new star system, where a growing human colony waited. It was a place of hope and strength, a future built on hard choices and quiet power. The galaxy had watched humanity walk away from the table in silence and fear. But now, humanity spoke beyond words, with a promise of freedom, a claim to destiny, and the quiet strength to shape their own future. The journey had only just begun.